Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ozholics podcast. We are celebrating. Wow. I mean, what it feels like to win. It feels like something that we haven't felt like in so long. I mean, in recent terms, it's just been an age, and I've got Myz with me to help me celebrate and reflect. All right, Myz, how's it going, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm buzzing, to be honest. Still buzzing. I mean, full time was like crazy, the way the game ended. And yeah, that buzz hasn't really worn off. So yeah, really happy. I'm looking forward to getting into this.
So much to talk about. Just the manner of the victory, the reaction from the City game, what this means, what City dropping points against Forest means, and how such a bleak picture pre this weekend suddenly looks like a lot different all of a sudden. And like there's just so it feels like there's so much to process, man. Like I mean, geez, where to start? Coming into this weekend, Myz, like, where were you mentally prior before kickoff today?
Yeah.
Please tell me how you felt whilst I pour myself another drink.
Mate,
Through my
I
continued
was with you,
celebration
man.
of the
I
day.
wish I was with you.
You're on Kicks Beauty today.
Yeah. Where was I before the game? Well, look, when we sort of previewed the game, quite like 24 hours after we just played City, I was still confident that we'd get a result. I mean, I didn't expect the game to go the way that it did, obviously, but I was confident that we would come back with 3 points. But this morning, before kickoff, like naturally nerves started to kick in a little bit. You know, we knew Thomas Partey wasn't going to be fit, and that's the concern that we've had all season, right? How do we cope without him for a few games? Well, without him for any period of time, really. But I just felt like, for me, it felt like this game was a test of like character, a test of like resilience, basically. So, and really a test of, are we serious about winning the league or trying to win the league, and actually competing with City all the way through to, April, May? Or are we going to, are we basically a top 4 team and that's what we're going to show? And I felt like, like you said at the top, right? 1 point from 3 in a really, really bad slump. We had to show a reaction. And so that was kind of like, I was confident, but I was also just really intrigued to see what kind of Arsenal would turn up, and would we be able to get the job done? Even if we didn't play very well, would we be able to get the job done and get the 3 points? That was the thing that was most interested in seeing, basically. So yeah, I guess confident, but not as confident as I was, going back to say November or post World Cup.
And I suppose after about 5 minutes, that confidence wasn't exactly going up, was it?
No. I mean, yeah. It was a bit of a theme through the first half, to be honest, wasn't it? Like we were really open at the back. It was really concerning. And yeah, like for as good as we've been this season, those sorts of goals, like, put it like this, right? We kind of got away with it a little bit today, but I think, going into the run-in or going into the next 15 or so games, we can't be starting games like that. We can't be starting matches like that. And it was really sloppy. Like Zinchenko gives the ball away. And I think, it's different if you're, say, Martinelli, Saka, you're trying to beat a man and you lose possession because you've got your defense behind you to cover you, right? You've got Zinchenko behind you or Ben White behind you to cover you. This is Zinchenko high up the pitch. He knows Ben White's high up the pitch. And it's just really sloppy from him, where you can't really afford to give possession away, because then we're just exposed. And that's exactly what happened, right? One ball over the top, and we're just caught really short. And like, I had some I don't know if they were interesting thoughts, but I had some thoughts on Saliba in terms of how he deals with Watkins in that situation, because for me, I personally think Saliba should do a lot better. I don't know if you agree or not.
I completely agree.
Yeah. His first touch, Watkins' first touch, like, it takes him away from goal. It's not a very good first touch, to be honest. So he needs to get he needs to kind of readjust and take another touch, or, control the ball again, essentially, to kind of almost change his direction back towards goal. But I think it's at that point that bad touch happens that, I don't want to say an elite defender, because I think Saliba probably will go on to be elite. But I think, age and experience wise, like a Rio Ferdinand or whatever, prime Van Dijk, they kind of they sense that mistake and they act upon it, and they just go in straight away and they engage the player, and probably nick the ball away, or they kind of show him further out towards the touchline. They do something. Saliba doesn't really do that, and then Watkins has the opportunity to basically drive into the box. And to be fair to Saliba, he shows him outside, which is probably what you'd want him to do, and it's a really, really good finish. But I do feel like he's just not tight enough as well. When Watkins ends up shooting, Saliba's not really in a position to try and block the shot. Like, he obviously tries to block the shot, but he's not really in a position to actually block it. Like, he never actually feels like, it doesn't actually feel like he's ever going to get like a deflection or a touch on the ball. So I think overall, just across the defense and just across the team, really, really, really poor start. Like you say, 5 minutes in, just not the way you want to be not the way you want to be starting a match like that.
Your comments on Saliba are interesting, because I think when Saliba is playing well, the style that he has, his style is like, he makes defending look easy, because it feels like he's so casual, but when he's on form, he's casually dominating strikers. He's casually, winning the ball, preempting everything. It almost feels like he's just a little bit ahead of everyone. But today was an example where it felt like he was so casual in that in the Watkins goal, like he could have got there, like almost like he was thinking, "It'll be fine. I'll get this fine." It's all.
I think it was more lack of confidence. Do you think
it was a confidence thing? Because he didn't look like, it didn't look to me because I was looking at it again just before we started recording. It didn't look to me like he was panicking or anything like that. It looked to me he was just like, okay, cool, striker's here. I'm going to show him here, and then it'll be fine. And it was just that. It was just a little bit. It looked like complacent. It was like a half-assed sort of attempt to block the shot, or maybe he thought the angle was different than what it actually was. Because actually, Ollie Watkins had really one option, right? Was to drill it low into that corner. And if you're Saliba, if you're a centre back, you probably know that that's what you've got to cut off. And he's just got it all wrong, really, to me. And when he does it, and when given his style, it just looks really poor. It just looks like a poor bit of defending.
I agree. And the only reason I sort of said lack of confidence or slightly low confidence, like kind of what I was saying before, the bad touch from Watkins, I think it's at that point. I think if you're on the top of your game, that's when you go in, you do something, there's some sort of action. You try and nick the ball away, you try and put it out, you put a tackle in. And I don't know, I just feel like he was a little bit hesitant or a little bit worried about committing and then just being beaten. And then Watkins has got a free run at goal. But I take your point. I think that's how that's the Saliba we saw at the start or first half of the season. Let's say he was defending like imperiously, wasn't he? We were raving about him as being this kind of like, Rio Ferdinand type, Rio Ferdinand reincarnated type, very classy defender. And we always said it, right? You've got to expect a period where maybe even longer than a period, maybe a good 10, 15 games where he's just not maybe going to be at that level because he's just so young, so still relatively inexperienced when you're talking about Premier League centre backs.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, like that, we didn't. The 1-0 didn't turn into 2-0. It seemed like actually it was a fairly open game, and Saka scores a spectacular finish to equalise. And I made the comment when we were discussing on WhatsApp. It was a great finish, and it immediately made me feel a bit frustrated about the chances we missed against City, because this was a finish of quality. This was a finish of a really good player, a team that knows that you've got to take those kind of chances, bang, goal. And it was hard. It was a harder chance than many of the chances that we missed against City. But I guess those chances against City didn't fall to Saka, and maybe that's where the issue lies. What did you think about the goal? And what did you think that? Did you think that from what had gone on to that point, we deserved it, or were you surprised that we got back in it?
It felt like you say it was quite an open game. It was quite an even game. I just felt like we were trying, not trying. I felt like our build-up play, possession-wise, we were pretty strong. I was quite impressed with, say, Trossard, for example. I felt like him and Zinchenko, a lot of it was going down that left-hand side, and I felt like Trossard was always just trying to make things happen, constantly going at the fullback. But at the same time, I felt like every time we weren't in possession, there was just this kind of like, openness about our defense, where it felt like they could kind of cut through us or open us up at any point. And obviously, they did that a couple of times. But look, in terms of the actual goal, like I don't even think he's, maybe because it's Saka and he's been doing this now just very consistently, where he's obviously scoring goals and just performing. But that, for me, that goal, the technique on that strike, and there were a few good strikes, so they weren't there, but the technique on that strike is seriously good. Like, because obviously he's got a lot of time to think about it, but the ball's coming towards him. He's got to adjust because it's at, say, like the ball's probably at, like, I don't know, thigh height when he hits it. Like it's a little bit higher than it would normally be, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of has to. It's just like a slight or like a partial swivel volley. The ball's not that low. And how many times, like if you think about it, how many times do we watch football? Like we watch games, even at Premier League level, and a player gets a chance, like an attacking player gets a chance like that, and they just sky it. They sky it over the bar.
Happens all the time.
Right? Happens all the time. And the commentator says that's a difficult one to keep down. That's or whatever. We see it all the time. And the fact that he just hits it with power, hits it with accuracy, hits the roof of the net. And there's no hesitation from him. It's just like concentration on the ball, execution, finish, and like, I was really, really impressed. And the fact that it's Saka, keeps delivering, just love the guy, man.
Did you feel like, I know there was an openness to the game, like you said, but did you feel there was any difference from an attacking standpoint anyway? Did you feel that there was a difference from how we were against City? Do you think that even starting Trossard versus starting Martinelli, did that have a marked difference from your perspective? And part of the reason why I'm asking you the question is I wasn't actually able to watch the game in a great amount of detail, given I wasn't at home, I was out. So I was sort of like, I was watching every now and again, and I couldn't get a great sense of that. Did you feel there was much difference from the sort of Trossard Martinelli swap in how we were fluent? Because as much as in fact, I actually think it was you who many weeks ago on this podcast, you were the first one out of all of us who sort of said that you had heard about the theory that that Eddie has been kind of sort of detrimental to Martinelli's form. So this was the first time we got to see that, a different starting pair on that left-hand side, if you like. So what did you think about that and the difference that made?
I think in terms of what Trossard brings, so the point you just made about the kind of link up between Martinelli and Jesus, and obviously Jesus takes up a number of different positions, and almost, him and Martinelli could potentially interchange. Jesus comes across to the left, so it gives Martinelli a bit more freedom to do different things and take up different positions himself. What I noticed what I was really impressed with Trossard today was he linked up really well with Zinchenko. I don't think Zinchenko had a particularly good first half, but they seem to, how can I put it? They just seem to link up really, really well down that left-hand side. And it always looked like, Trossard would say, pick up the ball. Zinchenko would maybe make an inside run, or Xhaka would make an inside run, and Trossard was trying to pick them out, or it would be the other way around, or they'd be trying to play 1-2s between those two or three players. And with Martinelli, I was going to say he's quite one-dimensional. He's not one-dimensional, but one of his biggest attributes is, he is obviously able to take players on, but it's more of a I'll knock it past you and run type, take players on. Or he can come inside as well. Whereas Trossard, I felt like close control was fantastic. He was able to kind of drive the ball towards the goal, and then, like I say, have those kind of interchanges with the other players that were supporting him. I don't think overall I noticed too much difference with how we attacked, to be honest. Like, I felt like we really struggled to get Odegaard into the game in the first half, and that changed dramatically in the second. And I felt like we didn't really, like, Saka obviously scored the goal, but Saka was involved. But at the same time, I felt like Villa were trying to kick him out of the game, like a lot of teams seem to do. But yeah, I think overall, I didn't see any kind of difference in patterns of play as such. It still felt like the same kind of Arsenal style of build up, very, very patient build up, and waiting for the right moment for like a through ball into Saka and then cut the ball back or go across the box and vice versa on the other side as well. But I think the great thing about Trossard is like every time he's played now, whether he's come on as a sub or now obviously started, he's had like a pretty, like he's looked positive, like he's genuinely looked positive. And he I think this is the fantastic thing. Now that we've got two players in that position, they're obviously now competing for a starting place. And they're obviously now just upping their game. Like they're forcing each other to up their game. So that's like just such a good, that's what you need, right? If you want to be a top team, you need that. So I was really, really impressed with Trossard. And I think we didn't have the best first half, but I thought he was maybe a player that stood out a little bit more than others.
Fair. Another change that was in this game was Tomiyasu was put back on the bench and Ben White regained his place. But the second goal from Villa, it came down Villa's, the really, I suppose the crux came down Villa's left-hand side. And for me, I mean, it looks like a really, you look at the goal and the commentators on BT Sport in the UK made the comment about how it was almost an Arsenal type goal of old. It was the sort of goal that Arsene Wenger's Arsenal used to score all the time.
Yeah.
And, it looked great from a Villa perspective. But when you look at it, for me personally, I felt Ben White was really poor for that goal. Really, really, really poor. And, granted, Xhaka, I felt was unlucky, to be honest. Like, he's unlucky. It was quite a good move. It was quite a good dummy. And then it kind of ends up making Xhaka look a bit silly in that goal. But I actually back him to extent. I think that could happen to anyone. It was a good bit of skill. But it was really poor, I thought, by Ben White for how he just didn't get tight. It was really basic. It was basic right back kind of play. How did you feel about that? Like, because you would argue, it's very easy, it's hypothetical, but I don't think Tomiyasu does that. I think Tomiyasu deals with that differently. Perhaps maybe because he's a more natural right back. But what did you feel about that goal? And did you think, am I being harsh on Ben White there?
I don't think so. I mean, I think there were a few, maybe I don't want to say players, but just zones or areas to really call out. Like the build up to that goal, I think it's Kamara who picks the ball up in the centrally, and there's no pressure on him. So there's no pressure on him. There's no pressure on the ball. Coutinho's taken up a sort of typical number 10 position. So centrally 40 yards from goal, let's say, whatever. And Kamara is able to just play a very simple, just a pass into Coutinho through the middle of the pitch. And then he's got all the time in the world. And I think it comes back to Kamara. And basically the point I'm trying to make is if you've got Thomas Partey in the team, I feel like there's a lot more pressure in the ball in that area. And I think Jorginho had a good game, I thought, when he was on the ball. And I think even when he wasn't on the ball, he wasn't bad. But I think it's just the difference in the type of player where I think if you're Jorginho, you're probably you just want to shield. If we don't have the ball, you probably just want to shield. You probably just want to try and direct the ball to certain areas as opposed to trying to engage. Because Partey tries to win the ball back quickly and then releases, and then Arsenal are out and we can, we're potentially attacking from that position. I don't really see Jorginho doing that much because, he's kind of similar to Xhaka. You know that if Coutinho beats Jorginho in the middle of the park, then there's no he's not going to be able to recover. And I felt like we just saw that in that goal. No one really engaged. They had a lot of time to kind of pick the passes out. And then, the Ben White thing, it was a bit weird because he seems to be in a fairly good position. And I think the ball goes to Moreno, isn't it? Their left back. And it was a through ball to him. But just before the through ball's played, Ben White just sort of takes a step to the right, but Moreno makes the run. And then it's just a really easy through ball. Whereas Ben White just holds his position. Yeah. That, maybe that ball doesn't make it through. And then Kamara has to make a different decision or whatever. But look, like I said right at the start, just generally defending wise, we were really, really poor. And it was poor from Ben White. For sure, because I'm a bit confused as to what he was actually doing. Like he didn't hold his position and he didn't engage. He just did a bit of both, and then he was just completely exposed. So, that was a bit disappointing. And like you say, I can't really, you can't fault Xhaka because nothing he can do. And
Yeah.
we're just exposed by that point, and it's a fairly straightforward goal for them.
Well, are you worried about our defence at all at the moment? Because it's 2 goals today. It was 3 goals against City the other day. When we played Brentford, Brentford only scored 1, but there were a couple of moments where Brentford looked like dangerous and kind of were exposing us a little bit. And Everton obviously scored a couple. What's your? I mean, do you have a concern?
I do. It's not a massive concern, but slight. I would say like a slight or medium concern, if that makes sense. I mean, we don't know what's going on with Partey, right? But like, as in how serious the injury is. But let's just say he's back for Leicester. I think my concerns are alleviated quite a bit. Let's put it like that. I think, like I said, like when I was just describing kind of my view on that second Villa goal, I'm not saying they don't score it with Partey in the team, but I just feel like we maybe stop that move even kind of happening much earlier on. And I think that's what Partey brings to the team. He just protects the defense so well. So I have a concern, but I'd be more concerned if someone comes out tomorrow and says Partey's out for like a month or something.
So your concern is more around the protection of the back four than how the back four is performing themselves.
I think so. I think individually, like we talked about Saliba. I don't think he had a bad game. Probably could have done better on the first goal, but I don't think he had a bad game. I thought Gabriel had a really good game. And there's periods in the game, and especially I think towards the end when they were chasing it. Obviously, we scored our 4th goal from their corner on a counter attack. But there were periods where, like the centre backs were having to kind of dig deep a little bit with like corners and balls into the box. There was one Gabriel tackle. I can't remember who it was against. You probably remember it, where Villa players got it in the box and he's sort of trying to shift it to take a shot, and Gabriel like manages to just nick the ball away. But it's one of those, if he mistimes it by a fraction of a second, it's a penalty. So anyway, point I'm trying to make is just kind of individually, I don't think there's too much to be concerned about, even though we are highlighting certain mistakes. And I think like even when you look at kind of how the defense are playing with the ball as well, we're still playing the same way. We're still trying to play out from the back. There were again a couple of hairy moments today with I think with Ramsdale, just nothing major, but again, you've got to expect that when you're playing out from the back. But no massive concerns, to be honest. No, I don't see there being like a pattern of goals that we're conceding, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I do agree. Like, we've conceded a lot of goals recently. And it would be nice to kind of shut up shop a little bit more and be a bit tighter. But, I think I said this before Brentford, we'd lost to Everton. And for the Brentford game, I didn't really care how we played. I just wanted to get the 3 points, and we couldn't do that, right? Because the 3 points now, even though we didn't necessarily play that well today, the win and the way that we won is just massive. Like, that's huge. I know we're going to talk about that. So, yeah, I'm kind of hoping that confidence builds as a result of this, and maybe performances improve a little bit, and therefore we don't concede as many goals.
Yeah, and look, I think the positive thing about this podcast right now is that we've probably covered all the negatives that we need to in this game now. Like, because my word, that second half was okay. I say we've covered all the the negative things. It wasn't like the scoreline suggests that might suggest slightly differently from the fact that it was quite tough to watch as an Arsenal fan. That second half, it was still a case of, are we going to do it? And even let's talk about the equalizer, because Arsenal, one of Arsenal's strengths over recent seasons has been set pieces. And so I think a lot of Arsenal fans, including myself, have started getting frustrated when we do the short corner routine these days, because it feels like we're going away from something that seems to have been working quite well over a couple of years. But this was a short corner routine, and Zinchenko slams it like perfectly, pinpoint, bottom corner. Beautiful first Premier League goal. I think it's his first Premier League goal, full stop.
Oh, really?
I think so. I think that's what they alluded to on the commentary. I know he scored for City, but I'm not sure if that it was in the Premier League. But what a great! It was a great time to score as well, right? There's enough time to then build momentum and go on. It was a great finish, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, like you say, it was a good time to score. Like, we're 2-1 down at half time, and we just needed a reaction. And I was watching, I can't remember exactly when he scores. Is it around 60 minutes? Could be wrong on that.
Yeah, it's around then.
And I was like watching the first basically the first part of the second half, and just sort of wondering, is it going to be one of those games where it just doesn't happen for us, kind of like the Everton game where we just never really turned it on, basically. So yeah, like short corner routine, that was something we were trying quite a bit today. And it's just nice when it pays off. But I think, to be fair, or to be kind of as impartial as possible, I think if you're Villa, like if you're the defending team for that goal, that's pretty bad defending. Like he's got a lot of time to basically to take that shot. There's, again, no pressure on the ball. So, from their perspective, they'll probably be disappointed, but not that we really care. But it's just nice when those like set pieces pay off, or like short corners and all those kind of like things they probably work on the training ground pay off. But yeah, exactly. Like you say, it's one of another good strike, one of many that we saw today. And yeah, like I think, again, it's like Zinchenko type mentality where it's just like, nah, I'm just gonna I'm gonna score. I'm gonna hit the target like with a shot. I'm not gonna. It's my opportunity to bring us back into the game. You could tell by the celebration as well. He didn't want to celebrate, really. He just wanted to get the ball.
He wanted to get back. He started swearing. He was fired up. But where was this before, Myz? Like, where was this finishing the last few games? Because this isn't just one player. This isn't. It wasn't like one player decided to have a standout performance. Yeah, these were half chances. I mean, even like the Jorginho goal where we'll come to, okay, there was some fortune in it in the end. But like, the Saka goal, Zinchenko goal, they're two harder goals than so many of the chances that we've had in the last few games. Like, where was this? I felt really frustrated.
I don't know. How do you answer that question? I don't know.
You can't. It's rhetorical.
Yeah. No, I know it is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like we could talk about like the it still kind of haunts me a little bit. Like, to be fair, mate, there was one, the Odegaard chance today. Bloody hell! Like, how has he missed that? And when he misses that, I can't remember what the score was. It 2-1 or 2-2? I can't remember what it was.
2-2. Like, so 2-2. I put on Twitter. Like, so at this point we were 2-1. From the point we were 2-1 down, just before Zinchenko's goal, I was outside with my dog in the garden at my brother-in-law's place. It was raining. And I'm watching through the patio. I'm watching the TV through the patio, right? And I'm like wondering about, we're in a top 4 battle now. This is wow, some fall. Like, this is at 2-1 at this point.
2-1. Okay.
But then even at 2-2, it was still like, okay, cool. But I still felt like, God, like, when are we get? We need a win. It's not. And I saw the Odegaard chance. I saw that through the window, kind of thing, and. That was mate. You got to score.
You can't. I mean, if you're gonna give it to Eddie Nketiah for the chances he missed against City, and even like the 1 or 2 he missed today, like that chance. I mean, I don't care. Yeah, I mean, basically, I think Odegaard's been let off. Let's put it like that. Like, he had a good second half, but the fact that you missed that chance, and you just can't. Again, I feel like we've said this quite a few times this season, not just with him, just generally. Like, you've got to hit the target. There's been a few, like, it hasn't cost us really that much this season, apart from maybe the City game. But yeah, like, I was shocked when he missed that. I couldn't believe that he didn't, like, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close.
No.
Really disappointed. And thank God it didn't come back to, it didn't cost us. But yeah, awful miss.
I'm almost harder on him in this scenario than I would be on Eddie, because I feel you expect that composure from Odegaard, captain as well. Like, he's been generally
missed a few. Like, I know he had a period of scoring quite a few goals recently, but I think start of the season, I remember there was a couple of. I remember Nero made that comment about his shooting. Do you remember? He wasn't scoring, and I think Nero said something like he really needs to kind of improve his like shot power, shot accuracy. There was a point he made, and it was valid, and he did improve. But yeah, like, I think there's been a few chances that he's been guilty of missing previously. So, yeah.
But you're right. It's one of those, it's amazing how football works that way. You reflect on the game so differently depending on the result, right? Like, and as a result, there's lots of things about this game that we probably won't sit there and have to dwell on. And sort of that's one of those. But later on, as as the game's gone on, like Ramsdale's made a couple of really important saves as well, hasn't he? Like I remember, like the first save that he made, I think, is from Boehly, which he hits onto the crossbar. Yeah. Actually, like at the time, like when I saw it, but I actually thought that, well, he's a bit lucky, because if the way I saw it was that if he doesn't save that, then actually it's really bad keeping, because it feels like it's fairly close to his body, it's near post, etc. But actually, when I watched it again, it was a really powerful strike. Yeah, a really, really powerful strike. And Ramsdale's probably done all that he can in that respect. And, if he's a little bit slower, then actually he doesn't get to palm it onto the crossbar. He palms it and it goes straight in the goal. And that save, I mean, that's a match-winning save in theory, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like he hits it with ridiculous power. It's a reaction save, really, isn't it? It's just put your hand up and hope for the best type thing. But he's still managed to get fingertips onto it. Yeah, like you say, match-winning save, probably. And yeah, not the first time he's kind of bailed us out this season, but. I can't remember the other. You're going to talk about another save that he made.
Yeah, he makes another save, and I can't remember who it's from. But I think the important thing about that save was where he palms the ball into. It was I think the game at this point is still 2-2. It's still kind of, I think we're on the ascent, but suddenly Villa have broken, and a shot comes in from the same side. But I want to say it's Watkins who takes the shot, or it might not be Watkins. But the point is, it's shot across the keeper, and it's one of these where, if he's not conscious about where he's palming the ball, he palms the ball potentially in the path of one of the Villa players. But you can almost see that he's incredibly conscious of where everyone's running and where the gap is, and he's pushing the ball into that gap. And again, that's you've got to be very present. It's really important that he's thinking that way, not just about stopping the shot, but where he's going to palm the ball to.
Yeah.
And ultimately that keeps us in the game. And then we go on to win the game in mate. Okay, maybe let's take a bit. Let's build up to this. Let's build up a little bit. There's two things I want to build up to this. There's two different directions. Let's go from this direction. So this hand is going to build up from the the protagonist's perspective, right? Okay. So this is Jorginho. Okay, so Jorginho, everyone was really worried about, when Partey got injured, there was all these question marks about his signing. That you and me were very impressed with him, particularly in the first half against City. But at the end of the day, we lose 3-1. So, there's only so much you can cover anyone in glory. But this game, he's there. And I think you and me out of the podcast group are probably more on the Jorginho has sort of been winning us over the last couple of games, sort of, and so, we've quite enjoyed his performances thus far. But yeah, so we've got him coming, and he barely scores. I don't know how many goals he scored for Chelsea. I don't even know if he scored. I forget penalties. Outside of penalties, I'm not sure.
Doesn't score goals like that. Yeah,
no, he doesn't score goals like that. So you've got this protagonist story of this guy, like he's trying to win over the Arsenal fans. It's in stoppage time. Smashing this shot, crazy technique. I mean, the ball is coming, if the Saka goal was amazing technique. I mean, this was, just like a glorious kind of cross kind of volley almost shot. Yep. The ball spinning, and it's beautiful, but ultimately it's just not good enough because it's sitting in the crossbar and all the kind of stanchion or whatever it is. And then let's go from the other angle for this goal, right? So then you've got the anti-hero. You've got Martinez. Maybe we don't have to go through the whole story again, but ultimately he's not exactly a big fan favorite or looked upon favorably from the Arsenal faithful after the way that his story sort of has ended and sort of progressed like with us. But also what's quite interesting is actually most football fans around the world who aren't Villa fans and aren't Argentina fans tend not to like Emi Martinez because of the character and the persona that he's kind of developed to himself.
Yeah.
And these two paths come crashing together for this goal, right? Ball, amazing shot, smashes off the stanchion and comes back and smashes this idiot on the head and goes into the goal. It's lucky. Yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic shot to even get, for the technique to hit the bar or whatever. But, to go in off the back of Martinez's head, I mean, how poetic How poetic is that after everything that we have been through with this guy? The story continues, man. Like, and I remember like I actually didn't see the goal when it went in. I was in the process of literally again sorting out
no
my
way.
dog. Yeah.
Oh,
So I brought my dog in, and then everyone else had told me that there was a goal. I looked at the screen, Jorginho celebrating. First thing, I had no idea how this goal has gone in. I've got no idea what the goal is. I've seen celebration. First thing I do is the very unfortunate thing that we've become conditioned to do, which is what about VAR?
Yeah.
So immediately I said VAR. I've got no idea what's happened in this goal. Yeah. So I've just said VAR. And there everyone's going, no, there's no way it's VAR. It's it's a great shot. Everyone will say that whatever. But then I could hear, the commentary was on low volume, and I heard them say they're looking at something. And which turns out to be apparently they were trying to I think wondering whether Eddie was blocking the view of the
I thought they
keeper
were going to disallow it, to be honest, because he arguably was. I was pleasantly surprised they didn't. I think there was two players that were offside, and Eddie was. Yeah, I mean, it could have been one where they overturned it, or disallowed it. Yeah,
but it feels like it would have been a disgrace if they would disallowed it, right? Like, yeah, but like you're saying, I get you. But what a time, man! Like, what a time to score the goal! Like, what a time! Like, as an Arsenal fan, given what we've been through over the last few games, and just feeling like their whole narrative, which was a fair narrative, was that Arsenal are probably going to have a patch. Are they going to be able to navigate that patch properly? And are City just going to hit the accelerator? And it just looked like that was going to happen. And City just have gone above Arsenal. Arsenal look like they're not going to win this game. And it looks like at that point, is it lights out? Really, are we, is it just blind optimism that we think that we could kind of make something of it? But that goal instantly changed everything, didn't it?
Yeah, mate, I think you've pretty much kind of summed it up in terms of the goal and what it probably means, or hopefully means for us this season, or at least into the next game. But yeah, man, like it was a quality strike. I kind of, again, similar to what I was saying about the Saka goal, like how many times do you see that last minute or whatever it was, 90 plus 2 minutes, ball comes out to you 25 yards out or 20 yards out, and I mean Jorginho is a very technical player, so in theory, that is you in that sort of position, you would expect him to be hitting the target. But I mean, look, he doesn't technically hit the target, but even so, yeah, what a strike! And just in terms of like the potential impact, like winning a game like that, as we know, the lift off that hopefully does give the team now, like you say, off the back of 3 bad games. 3 bad results, the lift off it, and the boost it must give them. Like, imagine that dressing room after the game. Imagine how Arteta must be feeling, and to do it after what happened against City. They had like 2 days to recover, 2 days to basically recover and prepare for the next game. Early kickoff on a Saturday, which was that decision is an absolute joke as well, to be honest. But
it makes no bloody sense, does it?
And like you say, it felt like the game had gone, or was drifting away. It felt like the 3 points were drifting away. So to kind of just do it in the way we've done it, it could potentially be, it could potentially be, absolutely massive for us. I mean, time will tell, but yeah. And oh man, I would have loved to have been in the away end today. Wow, that would have been some away end today, like just celebrating that goal.
I felt really pleased for them, man. Like, because the away fans have just been magnificent this season, as they always, are. And like, I think to go away to Villa, like after the recent run that we've been in, you could almost visualize, like, Villa's not always a place that we've had great success. I think last season, I think we won. But it's not always a place, and it's just like really happy for those fans to have that moment, man. They deserve it so much.
Yep.
And it was so nice to see, how passionate the players were celebrating at that moment. They knew how much it meant to them. And yeah, like, and obviously icing on the cake, the 4th goal, man. Like, I mean, like, it just gets funnier with that idiot Martinez, doesn't it? Like, so, he's gone up for the corner. Fair enough. He probably should do that. But, you sort of pay the price. I suppose they don't care at that point. They're going to lose anyway. But it's It's nice anyway that you get that fourth goal, and it was just that iconic image, right? That that we may see now, right? So the ball gets cleared from the corner, ends up at Fabio Vieira, who keeps his calm very well, and you can sort of hear Martinelli give the shout, and he plays the ball. Vieira plays the ball beautifully, calm, very well weighted. Pass to Martinelli, who just storms through, uses his pace, just pegs it into open space. And just before he pulls the trigger, like his arms are like stretched to the side. It's a great image. It's cool, and he scores, and it's 4-2. And it's a great moment, man. Like it's a really cool moment, and I don't feel sorry for Martinez at all, like because because he's a twat, and so this is great. It was cool, and it's nice for Martinelli to score, coming off the bench as well.
It's important, again, I think, man. It could, just again, I mean, just on Martinelli and Trossard, like, kind of, I guess, maybe final point, but I wonder if Arteta might just look at that position or the two options he's got, and obviously he's probably going to rotate. Like, you wouldn't be surprised if you wouldn't be surprised with whoever starts the next game against Leicester. But I wonder if he might just look at the two options he's got and be more tempted to start Trossard, but then have Martinelli as your kind of like super sub or whatever, like impact player, because it's a bit of a cliche, but the thing that, if you're, I don't know, if you're a fullback or a right back and you've had to kind of face Trossard or Gabriel Jesus, those sorts of players, and then Martinelli comes on with 20 minutes to go, it's like the last thing you want. And, and I wonder if he might just try that for a few games and see if it works. I'm not saying it necessarily worked today in the sense that Martinelli was the impact, because obviously the goal was the goal, but ultimately that's what he's just rapid, isn't he? It was a very comfortable finish in the end, but it's because of his pace probably that, and the fact that he's willing to make the run, and he's got the energy to make the run in the 95th, 6th minute, because he didn't start the game probably, means he gets that goal. But yeah, like that could be a really big goal for him, really, because their confidence has probably not been that great or high at the moment recently. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Before we just reflect on what it all means, I want to ask your opinion on something. So Vieira's come on, and he's come on for Xhaka, which is the sub that Arteta's made a few times recently at varying stages of the game. Interestingly, because when we signed Vieira, we were debating as to where he would play. We were wondering, kind of what's he in the squad for? Who's he back up for? Where do you think he'll kind of slot in, etc.? We had those discussions. But recently it's been the Xhaka sub. So it's been him coming into a number 8 position. Just throwing this out there, do you see any possibility of Arteta going with this as a starting option in the game, having Xhaka benched for Vieira and playing Vieira in an 8? Do you see that as a possibility?
Good question. I don't think I've seen enough from Vieira yet. I don't think I've seen enough from him yet, mate. To start Premier League games, I'm not really sure. Like, I know there's been moments, and like, I think it was Brentford away. I think he scored a really good goal. Was it Brentford away?
Yeah, really good post. Yeah.
So, like, I'm not questioning the guy's quality. We've obviously signed him for a reason, in terms of obviously, like, he's obviously a very good player. But I think unless there's like serious fatigue issues or injuries, or like if Xhaka's in the red zone, for example, I can't really see him. I just can't see Vieira starting games over Xhaka. And I think generally, if you think about Xhaka's Arsenal career, his injury record's really good. Let's touch on there. But his injury record's really good. He's generally very fit. He generally plays 90 minutes most games when he was playing central midfield. So not really, man. Like, I think Vieira, Trossard / Martinelli, like players like that, Reece Nelson maybe, just really, for now, I would rather have them as impact players off the bench. And obviously we've got Europa League to kind of factor in and contend with. The other one is like Smith Rowe as well, right? Like the question you asked about Vieira, you can ask the same question of Smith Rowe as well. And I think he's probably more likely to maybe play more minutes or start more games than Xhaka, on the assumption that he's fit, because he was on the bench today and didn't look like at any point that he was going to be coming on.
Well, I guess I'll be extra careful with them, though.
Careful, yeah, but yeah. So,
yeah. Well, so bigger picture. What does this mean, man? Like, how do you feel now? Because we were really, and you recorded after the City game, and I imagine that was quite difficult, like emotionally after the journey we've been through this season, to have dropped those sort of points leading up to the City game, and then to have that City game and just kind of go through that. But mate, like football's crazy, isn't it? Like, so we won today, 2-1 down, winning 4-2, and then City draw at Nottingham Forest after the stats suggest that they were pummeling Nottingham Forest for 90 minutes. That's what the stats look like. And you watched the game, didn't you? And what did you what have you come away with feeling after the experience of these two games?
I mean, they went one. So I didn't watch much of the first half, and I had like a fair bit of the second half on kind of in the background. But what was I going to say? Yeah, exactly what you said, man. Like, not just the stats, but it was pretty much just all Man City in terms of Man City playing in Forest half, Forest just sitting in behind the ball, basically just trying to not concede, and then trying to maybe take an opportunity on the counter. But it was all City, and like City didn't just have all possession; they opened up Forest quite a few. There was a Haaland missed. He missed like a gilt-edged chance. I think a keeper saved it. Keylor Navas saves it, comes back to Haaland, and he's like a few yards from goal, and he just smashes it over the bar, I think, from memory. And it's like, how has he missed that? And it was just, and I think you said it, the longer it stays 1-0 in the group chat, you said, the longer it stays 1-0, you never know. And that's basically what happened. Like, Forest just basically went up the other end. I can't even remember like how that even happened, but ball goes across the box and Chris Wood just onside. He's got a tap in. So, I mean, it's weird with City because it's not the first time, like you would have thought that they'd just, coming away from the Emirates. That win for them was massive. That was massive for them. I know they've been there and done it and all of that, but you would think that they would just go from strength to strength. That's what everyone expected. No one predicted they'd drop any points today. So yeah, like a massive bonus for us. I think what it shows, mate, like overall, I think it's just going to be it's still a long way to go, but it feels like it's just going to be one of those like proper title races where it's like whoever plays first, obviously they're going to try and win. If they win, then the pressure just immediately transfers to the next team that are going to play or the team that play after, and it's like you win, we win, and every time there's drop points, because we're obviously going to drop points between now and the end of the season. I think it's just going to be up and down quite a lot, and every weekend it feels like both teams are capable of beating anyone. Both teams are capable potentially of losing or dropping points or losing games. So I'm kind of expecting what you might call a traditional title race, like back in the day when we used to be involved in them previously, But yeah, like, I mean, with City, the thing is, today could have been like, it very easily could have been like 3-0 City and the game could have just been closed off. Do you know what I mean? It was just one of those games where they probably just, like, the chances they just didn't take, and they got caught by Forest. But yeah, mate, we'll take it. We'll take it all day.
Like you said, it's just going to happen a lot, I think, in terms of just weekends throwing up combinations of results that you just never would have predicted coming into it. But at the same time, look utterly logical in some respects, because Nottingham Forest have been a bit of a giant killer over the last year, probably stemming it back from when they beat us in the cup, when last season when they were still in the Championship. It's a hard place to go. So there was a part of me even thinking, maybe they could get a result today, Forest, but then you wouldn't have been, like you say, the way the game panned out, you wouldn't have been surprised if in the end City would have won 5-0. But we've got a weekend coming up now where we play Leicester away and Man City play Bournemouth away. Now you probably say that City should smash Bournemouth away. but you never know, right? Like you
No.
just don't know. Like something like this could happen again. So it's a cliche, right? But like we've just got to take every game at a time, right? We've just got to go week by week and not get too downhearted and not think that, have any kind of inferiority complex and not basically be like, well, City are just going to run away with it. We've just got to take every game as we go and focus on winning, right? Because ultimately, whenever we do drop points, which we will, it's not the sort of season where we've got this behemoth City team who are just winning game after game after game, is it? And even with United, because if you look at the table, right? If you look at the table right now, it makes more positive reading than it did pre this weekend. So back on top, Arsenal, 54 points, City with 52 points, and played a game more. So we're 2 points at the top again with a game in hand, which just feels weird. It feels really weird after the few games that we've had recently, right? To think that we're still in that position. And Man United have played the same games as us, but are 8 points behind us, which still at this point still feels pretty chunky. But if you look at like Arsenal, City, and United, and you look at their form over the last 5 games, they're all just patchy. It's just Arsenal win, loss, draw, loss, win. City win, loss, win, win, draw. Man United draw, loss, win, draw, win. Do you know what I mean? It's not. These are just every week. It's just a different random combination of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one. I'm looking down the form line here. Like there was one. The second game of each of these teams in their 5-game sequence was a loss. So there was a second game sequence where everyone lost. Like, you know what I mean? It's just it's just a very weird season, this, isn't it?
Yeah. And like I was saying before, right? It just feels like a bit more of a traditional title race. Again, we're only, how many games are we in? 22, 23 games, whatever it is. But it's not going to be, it just really, looking based on how things are going currently, you don't expect it to be one of the seasons that we've been seeing recently, with Man City and Liverpool, where they just both push each other to like ridiculous points levels, and no one loses a game. Like you lose one game and you're out of the title race. It doesn't look like it's going to be that kind of title race, which I think it probably is a good thing for us, because ultimately Arsenal, we have not been here before. It's just such a young team, inexperienced manager. Like every time we lose a game, or every time, like the Brentford game where we didn't get the win, they're learning something from that, right? It's an experience. It's a learning experience. Every time something goes wrong, player makes a mistake, whatever it might be. And I think, to be honest, that kind of title, like if we had a Man City, obviously, where they were going to hit 90, 95 points this season, there's no, like, I don't know. I'd be shocked if Arsenal could get to that sort of level. Like, I don't think we would be able to cope with, right, Man City have won on the Saturday, we play on the Sunday, we have to win. Like, I feel like that pressure might be a bit too much for us over a long, 38 game season. So it might lend itself quite well to us in terms of us being able to kind of cope with the demands of, like basically having to almost try and win every game, knowing that Man City are not the Man City of the last few seasons, and Man United, as good as they've been as well, like you say, there's still a gap between us and them, and they will drop, I think, a decent number of points between now and the end of the season. So yeah, man, like it's like you say, we always look at we talk about Bournemouth, we talk about Leicester as the next games for us and City coming up, and obviously United have got Leicester tomorrow. Who the hell knows? Like, you just don't know. So yeah, I can see it being pretty unpredictable, but
you got to want to be a fly on the wall in the City changing room post game today, right? Because Pep threw the gauntlet down to his players a few weeks ago, and it looked like masterclass in management in how they sort of, they went and they beat Villa, was it? And then they came and beat us, showing their class in critical moments. Lowest possession they've ever had under Pep against, was against us, 37%, just dogged, and then they made the difference clinically. And for all that to then go to Forest and completely dominate, like in the way that you described, and not win the game. What do you think Pep must be saying? Must have said to them at the end of the game? Like, he must be furious, surely, to have built them up to the point where they could come to our backyard and beat us 3-1, beat the best team in the league this season, which we have been, beat us 3-1, and then go to Forest and not win.
Yeah, I mean, I think internally, as in within himself, he'll be furious, obviously. But I think maybe in the dressing room with the players, like, the kind of feeling I get from him is he'll it's not, I don't know, I was going to say take the point and move on, because it's not really the case, but it's almost like, right, forget about that one. Let's just do what we know we're able to do against Bournemouth, for example, if that's the next game they've got. Like, I don't think he'll be kind of laying into the players, if you know what I mean, because I just don't think he's that sort of manager. I think he probably takes more of his frustrations out on, like, the media and in his interviews and some weird comments the last few weeks about the fans, that kind of stuff. So I think he'll probably protect the players. Arteta's quite similar in that sense. I know that, like, what we saw from Arteta in the documentary, he does go for them, but I think it's more a case of he'll probably just make them realize, or make them see that, these games happen in the Premier League, but you just got to move on from it and go get the 3 points in the next one. And that's basically what we need to be thinking as well, right? As soon as we have a disappointing result, you just got to go and try and get 3 points in the next one. It's just going to be who can be the most consistent. That's what it's going to come down to, obviously.
Completely, mate. Can we take a moment just to reflect on some other stuff that's happened in the league today? Because we have a weird day today in the league, because out of the 3 o'clock kickoffs, it took ages for a home team to score. Like, I don't think a home team scored in the first half, and that was surprising given some of the fixtures. Probably in the end, the most surprising result that happened was Chelsea losing 1-0 to Southampton at home. Bottom of the league, Southampton, managerless Southampton. It actually completely bypassed me that the Jesse Marsh negotiations had fallen through. I didn't realize that. I thought that that was happening, but clearly not. I was corrected about that today. So managerless, bottom of the league, Southampton, absolute mess. Go away to Chelsea, who, they've been a bit of a mess, but they spent $250 zillion dollars. And Potter's got to be in trouble, because I whenever I've said that, we've talked about this before, I've just sort of thought that no, look, they're going long term with Potter. He's been appointed mid-season, sort of mid-season, I suppose. Well, technically it's after the season that was started that he was appointed. They've hired all of Brighton's backroom staff. Clearly this is a long-term play, but if you lose at home to the team that's bottom of the league, who don't have a manager, after you spent that kind of money, is there a point where, as an owner, you kind of go, hang on a minute, long term or not, this is a bit weird.
I mean, only Todd Boehly knows, right? In terms of, if this was Abramovich's Chelsea, absolutely, he would just get the axe, wouldn't he? I don't think Abramovich has the patience, or had the patience, for any sort of kind of bad run of games. So I think I say traditionally, but the last 10 or 15 years, I would say so. If you're Todd Boehly, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. It's like, if you compare it to, I mean, it's different. It's different to what happened with Arsenal and Arteta, right? But obviously Arsenal had that period under Arteta, right at the start, where, do you remember, like, there was that this couple of seasons ago, I think we were like 15th in the league, and obviously, look, we stuck with him because there was a plan, because he was the guy that they wanted to back. But obviously he wasn't backed in the transfer market like Chelsea have been. So it's difficult to compare, but I guess, look, if they're looking at it like that, and they might even just look at the Arteta example and say, it's going to be some pain for a season or fairly short term, but we really, really think, he knows what he's doing, and he's the guy to kind of take us back to the top, or whatever you want to call it, back into the top 4 or to winning trophies again. Then maybe they just back it, like, maybe they do stick with him. And really, this season for Chelsea, they probably have made. I mean, they could still get into the top four, mate. This is the thing, right? They're what? I think they're like 10 points off the top four. Yeah, they could. Like Newcastle seem to be faltering a little bit.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of teams now probably looking at Newcastle, and like on the assumption that Arsenal, City, and United top three, whatever order that comes in, you'd probably say that's your top three. So there's one more place left. I think Chelsea will. There's probably no confidence that they can get top four, but they'll still be looking at it from a points perspective and saying, well, look, if we can go on a little bit of a run, get a number of our players back fit that have been injured for a while. And I think like a lot of them have come back, like Reece James is back now, for example, and he's a massive, and Chilwell, I think they're massive players for the way that Chelsea play. They might be looking
Reece
at
James there today, though he wasn't.
Oh, right. Was he not? Oh, yeah. I don't know. Well, he was back last week. I don't know. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure. I think Thiago Silva was injured as well, didn't play either. But yeah, man, like Chelsea, I mean, I don't know. Like Chelsea's such a weird, not weird, but the way that they make the decisions that they make and the way that they do things is like very unpredictable and very like just not Arsenal like, right? So it's quite hard to understand unless maybe you're a Chelsea fan. Kind of what their thinking might be. But obviously, look, if he just keeps losing games and you're losing, like you say, to the bottom of the league team that can't beat anyone at the moment, then yeah, like pressure should be on. But I remember, like I say, 3 years ago, or whatever it was, we were watching Arsenal losing to some pretty average / poor teams, losing at home in games that we shouldn't have been losing, really bad performances. We couldn't get a goal. Like it was awful. It was really bad. And we were sitting there thinking, geez, is this the guy for us? Is this the guy to actually, like, and I think we didn't, between the 3 or 4 of us, we did talk about it, is it time for him to go sort of thing? Because this is not working. So, it's difficult to say because things can change quite quickly in football. And in 2, 3, 4 months time, it could look very, very different.
Yeah, I get you, and then maybe there'll be a feeling at Chelsea that they'll think that clearly all the spending that they've done in January, I don't think they would have factored. I don't think they would have done it and assumed that they were going to finish top 4 this season. There's this running joke that's doing the rounds on social media, right? Which is, I'm sure it's a joke. But it kind of was going the rounds again today, which is the whole thing about how, there was some kind of agency or whatever that overheard a conversation. So there was a journalist that overheard this conversation with Todd Boehly and a bunch of agents at some kind of Chelsea event. I don't know what the specific nature of the event was. And there was something about, I think he was asked about, whether he has any concerns about this season or something like this. I don't know if you heard this. And apparently like what Boehly said is something like, well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we qualify automatically for the Champions League.
I saw this.
Something like this.
This was a few weeks. Yeah, I did see.
Yeah, and it's come back around. It came back around today as well. I'm sure it must be a joke. I'm sure it just must be like something ridiculous. But here's the thing. Whether that's a joke or not, I assume that part of this financial overlay, from a pure FFP perspective, they've obviously pulled a bunch of levers and, they've used the 8-year contracts or whatever. But like, I'm sure there is a requirement that over the next couple of seasons, they get back in the Champions League. Now, if they end up finishing outside of any sort of European football, which, it could happen this season, you would argue that maybe there's even better chance of them being in the Champions League next season, because clearly like they've already signed a whole load of players. They've signed a lot of talented players. Potter will get to work with them for, for another window, another summer window, get some more players in, and then they kind of get a free run at it, if you like. But you might start to panic a little bit if you're Boehly, surely. Like you might sort of sit there and go, well, you can't. Do you risk, basically? Do you get yourself in a position where you get to the end of this season and you have to think about looking for another manager, and then that other manager might come in and think he wants different types of players, and how long can you sustain not being in the Champions League for? Maybe we shouldn't overcomplicate it, but is there any, just quite simply, I mean, is there any part of you that thinks that Potter could lose his job this season?
Yeah, and I think there is. I think I definitely think he's at risk. Like, just purely based on results. And they've won like 2 games in 15 or something. like absolutely awful form. So, and I think given like the spending and where Chelsea have been, in recent years, like they've basically been pretty consistently either in the top 4 or kind of competing for trophies. I mean, if his job, like at some point, if he carries on like this, I guess his position probably becomes untenable, So, but it all depends on like how far is Boehly willing to let it go before, like how bad is he willing for it to go before he kind of pulls the trigger. And I guess also, look, if you think about it, he's, they must have an idea, not an idea, they must have like a short list of other managers that potentially might be available over the next 6, 12, 18 months, right? It's kind of like a transfer target list. And if they think they can get an elite manager, they can obviously pay him the wages. They can pay, probably best wages in the league.
Jose back?
Jose, Pochettino, I don't know. There's probably a few names, right? So they may just maybe it's a timing thing as well. If a manager becomes available that they really really like, maybe that's
because the difference is, you made the comparison to how we felt at the low times with Arteta, and I agree there were times that we were, even us who have been always very pro Arteta. We were wondering at one point, would the owners think that enough's enough? But I think that what we at least always saw was that there was something that there were things that Arteta was trying to implement, and there were things that he was trying to do, and whether they were working or not was a different thing. But it felt like there was something that he was trying to do. Looking at all the reaction from Chelsea fans on social media, particularly after today, I think their furiousness is that they've just got no idea what he's really trying to do.
Oh, really?
And they've got no idea about the system that he's playing. They have no idea why he's playing certain players in those positions in the system. Like nothing seems to make sense to them. And I know it's not been that long, but you've got a squad, like you've got a massive squad. So you've got like all different types of components you can use, but they seem to not think that anything makes sense. And clearly losing at home to Southampton is, it's mad. So I wonder for that reason, whether, they sort of think, well, it's not like the Arteta situation.
Yeah, possibly, man. Like, I just don't know with these owners, right? With these owners that, like Abramovich, for example, when he was in charge of Chelsea, it was just like hire and fire, and obviously it would just be like this constant, just change of manager all the time, and they were able to attract elite managers still, even though people knew that they'll be coming into the job and probably under pressure after a couple of bad results. So man, I don't know. You have to get into the mind of the owner to understand what he might be thinking. But I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't last the season. No.
Great. Just before we finish up, should we just quickly do a very quick preview? So very quickly, just shout out to Mobe in the comments, who's joined us for a live episode for the first time. He's been a supporter for the podcast. So cheers, mate. Cheers, Mobe. I hope you're good. Happy for you being able to experience this success with us. You're a good guy. And let's just look. So Leicester, we haven't got a game midweek, but we've got Leicester, and then I think we've got a succession of games, and afterwards, right? We've got Leicester, and then Everton, and then someone else. So who's someone else? But basically, it's a little thing. So Leicester away. What do you think? So Leicester have got Man United tomorrow. As Aaron did mention in the comments, it would be fantastic if Leicester can do us a favour tomorrow against United and then completely screw up when we play them. How do you feel about that? Do you think Leicester have got a chance against United tomorrow, and then do you fancy us against them?
Do they have a chance against United? Yeah, I think so. They've sort of picked up form again. I will say again, but they seem to have picked up a little bit of form in the last few games compared to, I think, because they started the season, but they were really bad, weren't they? They were like that right down the bottom, if memory serves me right.
Yeah, they were. You're right. Yeah, and they've won their last 2 games.
They won their last 2. Beat Spurs last game. I think they're scoring some goals now as well. So they absolutely have a chance against United. I still am not sure about United. Like, I know that they're in really good form at the moment, and especially Rashford's just absolutely smashing at the moment. Like, he just seems to be like every game he plays, he's scoring a goal, or basically he hasn't stopped scoring since the World Cup. But like when we played United, I think we showed that well, basically, form suggests it and points suggest it, but even performance on the day that we are a better team. I guess the point I'm trying to make is I don't feel like United are unbeatable. They're just in really good form, and I think Rashford's just on this like hot streak. But I think definitely. I don't know if I'd necessarily predict Leicester to go there and get points or get a result because, like I say, United are just doing really, really well at the moment, and I can see them winning at Old Trafford, all the rest of it. But fingers crossed they drop some points. In terms of us playing them next week, it's another tough away game, but it's again the kind of game. I mean, every game, like it just feels like we say this for every game, where it's the kind of game that you have to win if you want to win a league title. So we've got a week's rest, which I think is quite important because we've had let's say three games in a week, pretty much. Brentford, City, and then Villa today. A week's rest could be massive for us when you think that Thomas Partey could come back. We don't know, but it sounds like it's not a serious injury. So, Thomas Partey possibly back in, maybe a player like Smith Rowe kind of ready to come off the bench if we need him. Just and the rest could just be really, really important. But in terms of Leicester, like I think we've got a pretty good record at away at Leicester. I think it is.
I think it's okay as well, and I think probably what's going in our favour is that Leicester are, this season anyway, have been awful at home. They've been so bad at home. So, but I think the only team worse than Leicester at home is Southampton this season. So they're like, if I can get up right now. They're 19th in terms of home form. They're the only team worse than Southampton. So they've taken 12 points at home this season from 11 games. That's like really bad. So, in our favor, I guess we've got that. And I don't think it quite works like that though, right? I think that ultimately, like, they were just generally in poor form. Like you said at the beginning of the season, they were just generally in poor form. But I think, like you say, I think your point about us having quite a good record at Leicester is important. I think we'll have good memory from Leicester, and the fact that they aren't at home will help. I think the confidence in our team, and they're actually okay away from home. They're sort of around the mid-table in terms of kind of the away form. So therefore, them at United, you'd hope maybe they might be able to get a result. Maybe Man United might be a little bit tired from playing from midweek as well. Playing their Europa League game and having to come from abroad. We can hope. But give me a prediction about Leicester. What do you think the Arsenal Leicester result's going to be?
I'm going to go positive. I'm going to go 3-2 again. I say 3-2 again. I'm going to go not again 3-2. I'm going to go 3-2. I mean, I keep having this in the back of my mind, this like Thomas Partey thing. And it's just so vital to us, so vital, as we know. And like my confidence might go up a fair bit if we find out during the week that he's fit. And on the flip side of that, if we find out that he's injured for a little while, then my confidence in us getting results in these like away games drops a little bit. But like, I think like you say, I mean, Leicester mid-table team this season. They've got some really good players that I really like, actually. Madison, Barnes, Nacho, players like that. I do quite like some of the players they've got, but I think it's just a team that you just have to kind of again dispatch and move on to the next. And it's this run of games that we've got now. It started today. We've got like very winnable fixtures on paper. It's Everton. After Leicester, it's Everton. Then I just checked, it's Bournemouth at home. Like these games that you just have to get the 3 points. And it's that period of the season, man, like where performances matter because they just matter. Like, you can't ride your luck, or you can't expect to be winning games playing badly for a long period of time, obviously. But at the same time, it's like a period where there's obviously a lot of games. Europe's coming back now. I know it hasn't come back for us, but it will be back in a couple of weeks or so. And you just kind of you've really got to churn out results when other teams do start, like what happened today. City dropped points. We were able to go and beat Villa. That's potentially crucial when it comes to end of the season. So, yeah, but I think overall, man, I think Arsenal, I feel like we're not necessarily back on track yet, but this win should be massive for confidence, and it should be massive for the players actually realizing, okay, we went through a bit of a bad run, but we've come out of that now, and we did what we needed to do today. Let's go and do it again against Leicester. So I'm kind of thinking from a mentality wise and morale kind of standpoint, we should be in a good place. So I'm going to go 3-2 Arsenal.
I like it. I'm going to go. I was going to go 3-1, but I'm going to go 2-0, just to be a little bit different from your 3. So I think we'll win. I think that, man, I think today would have given us so much confidence just coming back. And I feel that therefore training this week, I can imagine at Arsenal, like they'll be really focused again. That kind of feeling of inferiority or that feeling of self-doubt may have been dissipated a little bit. And I think they'll be really focused in training. And I think Arteta will drill them really hard and get them really focused. Look, I fully expect City to go beat Bournemouth. Look, I think we will win. So, look, man, let's hope. But look, I think we'll wrap up there. Man, it's been really fun reflecting. It's been a few games since a win, and now this win is just very timely and in what dramatic fashion. And we're still in the title race, brother.
We are, mate. Long may it continue. I just don't want to start dreaming, but let's see what happens. But it's looking
game by game, bro. Game by game.
Yeah.
Everyone, thank you for joining. Thanks for joining us in the comments, guys, and thank you for everyone who's been joining the live stream and everyone who will listen to afterwards. Please like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate all your support. Have a lovely weekend, Arsenal fans. You deserve this. We deserve this. And carry on drinking like me. It's Saturday night. Take care.
Enjoy, man.
Easy.
See you later,
See you, Myz. Bye-bye.
Bye, mate.